Hi everyone, it's ALB in Whisperland here. I'm so glad to see you again. In today's video, I'm going to be doing another book video, but this one is going to be a little bit different. These books, while they are not strictly considered comic books, are books that comic book lovers would probably like very much. And I thought you might enjoy looking at them. They're kind of unique books that not everyone has seen before and aren't readily available everywhere. So I thought you might find them interesting. I have to apologize. I don't have any nail polish on in this video. I hope that's okay. I've been doing a lot of sewing and painting lately, and it just doesn't make sense to wear any nail polish. It's just gonna get ruined. So I hope that you'll be forgiving of that. And for those of you who really like natural nails, then maybe you'll like this. Anyway, so I'm gonna be doing 3 books for you today. A lot of you have been requesting more book videos, and as someone who has a lot of books, I'm more than happy to oblige that. And I collect books to some degree, so it's fun for me to explore my collection and to share this with you. So let's get started. This first book is called Bat Manga: The Secret History of Batman in Japan. And I was given this book as a gift for a birthday a few years ago. And it's a really interesting book because most books are, as we know, read left to right. We would read them like this, right? But Japanese books are different. We read them from right to left. So we start this way instead. Now this book has a really interesting dust jacket. And when you pull it away, it reveals this really interesting vintage Batman and Robin. And you know, we have all of the Japanese lettering and everything up here. But it's really unusual, especially in these day and age, to see a half jacket on a book. So that's kind of neat. So we open it up, and we are already astounded by all of the beautiful colors and images. This is a lot of Japanese advertising for Batman. And you can tell, like, just how different Batman is, or was, I should say, in Japanese culture, and just how it was advertised was very different than it was here. Even the villains were different. And this book, I think is a really good book if you know someone who's a Batman collector, because a lot of people haven't even heard of this book before. I know I hadn't. It has a lot of really interesting advertising and information, and a lot of people would find that very interesting. The pages aren't that thick. And they aren't what I would consider a high gloss. I would consider them like a semi-gloss, but they're still very high quality. So this book, for the most part, is just scans of the Japanese Batman manga. And obviously, excuse me, I don't want to bend it too much because it's not hardcover, and I don't want to ruin the spine. But there's interesting advertising, like we said. Introduction. And this book isn't that enjoyable for me to flip through and show you, so I'll just give you a little bit of a sample. For the most part, it's like this. It's just like the original manga book, except obviously it's English, so you can follow along. And I think that this kind of book is recommendable for either a young child getting into Batman who wants to read a Batman comic, or a collector, because the panels aren't that dynamic, although it's very interesting, and like I said, from a historical viewpoint, it's very interesting to read, especially just the difference of villains and stuff. But for the average comic book reader, we are a little bit used to having much more dynamic scenes and patterns and colors. Obviously this is black and white, but you know, it's different than what we're used to, so it might not be that interesting to read, but it can be interesting to look at from the advertising and all those things. It's a full color book. It's I think a worthwhile purchase. Personally, I love vintage advertising. That's something that I totally geek out over, because I just think that kind of thing is really cool to learn about. And the colors in this are just great. I love these. It's like you can see all the cracks in the original packaging, because it was clearly like a very high quality photograph taken. I just love that aspect of it. So I would recommend this book to either a young Batman fan or a collector. I think it's a really great item to own, even for just nostalgia's sake, because it harkens back to, you know, the original Batman television series. So fans of that may also like this book very much. So we'll move on to the next one. The next one that I have here is this copy of Batman Returns, the official movie book. Now, this book, not everyone is going to enjoy this book, but for me, it's something in my heart that I had to own it. For example, it's paperback. It's not the highest quality book. I bought it at a thrift store, so there's definitely, you can see shelf wear along here, along the edges. There are some small markings, some small folds in the plastic. So this is not a collector's item, I would say. But for me, I really find it just fascinating to look at behind the scenes things for movies. And I love concept drawing, and I love all of that, like, you know, costuming, the thoughts that people had before they did something, to me, are just as important as the final product. It's like, where were they coming from with this idea? And Batman Returns, you know, it's not the best movie, but it's very enjoyable, in my opinion, to watch. And so this book was one that I just fell in love with. And the pictures are really, I just think, wonderful. So let's look at this one. So again, the first page, just plain Batman Returns. The pages are relatively glossy, although not the highest quality pages. Table of contents here, the foreword by Tim Burton. So this is the foreword, and I love this picture of Tim Burton working at this desk on set. And here it talks a little bit about Tim Burton's, oh, I had my hand on his face, Tim Burton's thoughts and some of his original sketches for the movie. And again, I love this kind of stuff because when you see where the artist was coming from versus how that translated to the film, they're very different but very similar things, and I find that so interesting. I like to know where the artist was coming from with an idea. Some old Batman comic books that they drew inspiration from. A comic book cartoonist named Bob Kane. And this picture shows Bob Kane, the cartoonist, visiting the Gotham Plaza set during production. And here are some comics that they used as inspiration for the dynamic between Batman and Catwoman's relationship in the movie. I'm not going to go page for page, although I'm sure some of you would love that, but we do need to move on, so I'm going to show you some of my favorites. Let's see. The Penguin, that's kind of interesting. They do one for most of the main characters. Danny DeVito is terrifying in that movie. When I was a kid, it was like the scariest for me. And Michelle Pfeiffer is Catwoman, and we have this just iconic image of this costume with all the stitches that has inspired so many cosplayers even now. Even now in 2013, it inspires so many, this costume, because it was just so out there. It was so different. And I would say that even now it inspires so many other superhero costumes and designs because it's just the stitches, the look, it is so iconic. And they talk all about the costuming a little later on. Show you some more Alfred. I really liked him as Alfred, although not as much as the Alfred in the Dark Knight series. I like him very much. I like both. Alfred's just the most lovable character. I don't know how you cannot love Alfred. He's just a sweetie. Alfred puts up with so much. I love these costumes. The Ice Princess. So pretty, I love this. All these circus themed costumes. And this talks about sets and art direction and all of these things. Let's see if there's the costume section. That's what I really wanted to show you. Here we go. Okay. So, this is the costume section, and the costumes were done by Bob Ringwood and Mary Voigt, and I'm probably pronouncing her last name wrong, so I apologize for that. But look at all these sketches for the Ice Princess, the Penguin. And of course, we have up here Catwoman's iconic suit, and I read somewhere, I'm not sure if I read it in this book or somewhere else, but she had to be sucked into this costume because it was so tight. It almost looks like liquid on the body. Just beautiful. And then the rest is all special effects and things like that. Really just a very, very fun book. Look at all the different weapons and everything. So yeah, I really like this book, even though, like I said, it's not in the best condition. I just think it's really fun. And people who like movies and who like movie production would find it really interesting. So that's that one. Now, this is the one that I was most excited to show you, because, oh, I consider this to be a prized possession of my own. This is DC Comics Cover Girls. And this book, okay, I just need to talk about this book for a second. This book, let's see how much it costs. $49.95 Canadian. That's how much you would buy it if you paid in store. And I found it at a store, not a thrift store, like a bookstore. I think it might have been Chapters. Sorry, there was a scratch. I found it for $15 in plastic wrapping. I couldn't believe it. I was so pleased. It is such a beautiful book. I recommend this book to everyone who loves illustration, to everyone who loves comics. Really, it's just such a great book. Okay, so let's get into it. The cover is really interesting because we have this iconic Wonder Woman image, and then in a kind of mirrored image we have this redraw by Adam Hughes, and I really love Diana's expression here. She's like, oh my goodness, is that me? And it's interesting because it's like you get the both worlds in this book. We get the old and the new, and I mean, I love Adam Hughes's work very much. So the foreword for the book is by Adam Hughes, and I mean, he's really the guy to do this, because that's his art is all women, female comic superheroes and villains. And he's so good at that, right? Okay. So we have a really nice dust jacket. When you take it apart, we reveal this image of Superman, Clark Kent, and Lois Lane, as I think this is one of her appearances as Superwoman. A couple times in the comics over the years, she's appeared as either being granted the same powers as Superman or similar powers, for various reasons. You know, they all have their own little plot. But yeah, it's you know, it's kind of a nice touch for the cover for her to be carrying him, because we all know the iconic, I've been saying iconic a lot in this video, but I really feel, you know, it's Clark Kent carrying Lois Lane is like, that's the image everyone knows, right? So it's kind of funny. So we have this nice dust jacket, and then on the inside panel it's pretty subtle. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but we have Batman and Robin chasing the original Batwoman, Kathy Kane. Kathy Kane was basically introduced as a way to give Bruce a romantic partner in a way, although she caused a lot of problems for him. So now these pages are very high quality. I would say almost twice as thick as the other books we looked at. They are so thick and glossy. Any paper geeks out there will just, it's such nice paper, and all the better for these beautiful images to be put on. So we have Supergirl here, and this is what I was talking about a little bit of the cover. Clark Kent and Lois Lane getting married, flying above the Daily Planet down here, and then Lois obviously carrying Clark. So DC Comics Cover Girls. It's going to be very hard for me to not go through every single page with you, but it really is just a beautiful, beautiful book. Stephanie Brown as Robin for the table of contents. And then we have a foreword here by Adam Hughes, and he talks about women in comics and why women on the cover of comics, for whatever reason, tends to sell more. And then this is, I believe, a Darwin Cook image of Wonder Woman, and this is Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, but as it is an older image, I don't know the author immediately, or not author, I don't know the artist immediately by looking at it. Introduction, and they go into, you know, where comics with women came from and all these things. Now, the reason why I like this book so much is because I love, well, first of all, I love comics, but I love comic book covers. I love them so much. In fact, I would say one of the biggest reasons that I buy comics is for the covers. I mean, the cover really says it all, doesn't it? And I mean, everyone knows that I'm an illustration fiend, so covers are just, they're just the biggest part for me. They are so dynamic. They tell the story, but they give, it's just a little teaser, so you want to read the book. These are all obviously older comics. The Teen Titans with Starfire, Wonder Woman during one of her costume revamps. This was, I'm not sure if it was in the 70s, but her look was very 70s inspired, and obviously she's skiing here, so very mod. This is kind of an iconic image. Iconic, I said it again. My goodness. If you read comics, you know what I'm talking about. It's the pose. It's the pose. It's not just holding someone, it's not just holding a body in your arms, it's this specific pose. For DC fans has come to mean a lot. It's almost, so many different cover artists have paid tribute to this pose. It's a big deal. This particular cover was George Perez. That was Supergirl's Death miniseries, I think. Oh, I love this cover. Harley and Ivy by Bruce Timm. Bruce Timm just has a way of drawing Harley and Ivy that is almost incomparable. There's the Darwin Cook we looked at earlier. As you can see, this book is just stunning. I mean, I can't say enough about it. And the great thing is it also is divided by a lot of the, I would say, big name female characters. So we have a whole section about Wonder Woman that talks about her history and where she came from and the character development, and then obviously we have some older covers and some newer covers. And this is an Adam Hughes, I believe. I don't see his signature anywhere. It really looks like it though, so I'm going to assume, but you're more than welcome to correct me. I've made mistakes before. Maybe just once. I'm having too much fun with this, I think. Another great Wonder Woman cover. That's just beautiful. Wonder Girl and the new Teen Titans with her new look. The return of Donna Troy. Ah, see, here's her new look again. And so that's a couple Wonder Woman. There's a lot of Wonder Woman in this book, as there should be. She is the first lady. Well, not first lady. She's one of the Trinity, right? She's a big deal. I corrected myself in saying she's the first lady because I consider Lois Lane to be the First Lady of DC. Although, as you can see, she stands for herself very well. And this whole section is Lois Lane. Now I just need to look at this because... Yes, okay. This is what we were talking about earlier. So in the Superman 57, which was penciled by Wayne Boring and inked by Stan K, Lois's descendant possesses Superman-like powers, and then Lois acquires superpowers. And like I said, they've done that a couple times in comics. I'm sure at some point they'll show it again in a newer issue. In this book, they show where she became Superwoman for a time. These are all older issues. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So here, is this All-Star Superman? Yep. Him revisiting the theme of superpowered Lois Lane. And I've seen this look cosplayed a lot. I really like it. It's kind of Superman, but not copying his costume. It's its own. It stands on its own. It's very identifiable as Lois Lane. And then we hit the Supergirl section. Introducing Supergirl from Krypton. Is she friend or foe? Lots of really interesting Supergirl covers. Oh, here again. I think I talked about this pose already, but you see what I mean? This pose is echoed in DC Comics, and DC fans, as soon as you see this pose, it's heartbreaking. It really is, because you know right away it's paying tribute to that original. And oh, there's a little small section on Power Girl here, although I don't think she got her own big name bearer. No. But obviously very important. This is an Amanda Conner, yes, Amanda Conner cover. This is Adam Hughes here, and then we have a Jim Lee variant down here. Great character. So now we're getting into the Gotham Girls. My favorites, admittedly. And I have so many Bat family feels, as they would say. I just have always felt so connected to stories about the women of Gotham, whether they be heroes or villains. I just, for some reason, have always connected to them so much. Oh, this is the Catwoman When in Rome series. The art in this, not only just the covers, but the art in this series is amazing. I would recommend it highly. Adam Hughes is very known for his Catwoman covers. He did them for a really long time, and he's known to liken Selena Kyle to Audrey Hepburn, which I really find interesting because it's kind of nice to see an artist pick a very specific facial structure for a character and stick with it, because it's so easy to make all your characters look the same in terms of facial structure and features, and or to just change them. But he really has solidified who Selena is for so many people, and that's not an easy thing to do because so many different people have written Catwoman, so many different people, and to be able to just very much identify who she is, what she looks like, it's a very amazing feat for an artist to take. So the last couple covers and everything were Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Catwoman, Batgirl, of course, Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, the original Batgirl. Oh, come here. some beautiful covers as well. Carrie Kelly down here with her tiny little weapon. So cute, right? Oh, and this is a tough one. Barbara Gordon being shot by the Joker, paralyzing her, turning her into the Oracle. Now, personally, and not everyone feels the same way about this, but I prefer Barbara Gordon as the Oracle because I believe she really came into her own as this character. But everyone connects to characters differently, and there's nothing wrong with preferring Barbara as Batgirl as well. I think that everyone should be able to read about a character in a way that they like, and if you like her as Barbara Gordon, if you like Barbara Gordon as Batgirl, I think that's great too. And I think it's great that we have the ability to read about these characters in so many different stories. And more Adam Hughes covers of Catwoman. I love his style so much. Batman cover. This is a Jim Lee cover. He has a very distinctive art style. The Girls Night Out is the cover name. And then we have a Harley Quinn issue up here, #1. Very cool. These are Darwin Cook covers as well. I don't know all artist names. I hope it doesn't appear like I do, because I don't. But the artists that I do like, I take time to learn their names and their styles so that I can recognize their work pretty quickly. For example, these two covers are Bruce Timm, and this cover down here is Terry Dodson. They have very distinctive styles, so once you learn who does them, you can very easily identify them. This is Gotham Girl's cover. This is a Renee Montoya section. Renee Montoya is well, in some stories she's a detective, in some stories she's a cop. It depends on what, you're reading, but for a long time coming, especially before, this is pre-52, obviously, she and Kate Kane were seeing each other. Kate Kane is Batwoman, and I do have to say I do miss that storyline, even though I love the new Batwoman, as many of you know. And then of course we have Robin, which is Stephanie Brown as Spoiler down here. I think Pete Woods, did Pete Woods do the cover? I stand corrected on that one, I don't know. Another Renee Montoya, Harvey Dent down here, and then we have Stephanie Brown as Robin. The girl wonder. Oh, I love it. As many of you know, I have a really soft spot in my heart for Stephanie Brown. And this is pre-52 as well. One of the, not the, is it the first introduction of Batwoman? I'm not sure. Yes it was. The first appearance of Kate Kane as Batwoman. Made a big deal. Came out in 2006, I believe. Yep. And you can see her costume has changed a little bit since then. Not too much. The color scheme is basically the same. Same cape, although obviously mask shape and her kind of discernible features have changed slightly as well. Her current costume, I mean, it's probably not going to pick it up quite as I would like it to, but in the book it's more maroon, which, could just be an artist's choice of how they did the cover. Obviously there's a lot of blue tones in this cover, so there's a chance that that was just a lighting choice. And then we have a whole section of Batgirl. Now, these two Batgirl covers are featuring Cassandra Cain, and a lot of people would think that this is not Cassandra Cain, but it is in fact Cassandra Cain, because in this issue, Batgirl 45, basically Cassandra, under the mentorship of Barbara Gordon, wore Barbara's original, blue and black and yellow costume. She wasn't really herself yet at this point. She was not necessarily experimenting, but she wanted to emulate her mentor, and she put on the old Batgirl costume. And so a lot of people, when they see this, they assume it is Barbara Gordon, but it is in fact Cassandra. And by the end of the issue, she realizes she's more comfortable just being herself, which is great. Now, this cover and this cover here are by James Jean, who is a really great artist. And James Jean doesn't do a ton of comic book covers. Well, I shouldn't say that. He does a lot of comic book covers, but they aren't as mainstream. He does a lot of work for Fables, I'm pretty sure, Fables, and other things. He does advertising and things like that too, but I really love James' covers here because obviously they're somewhat violent, as many crime-fighting comic books are, but the violence is cartoonish in nature because, first of all, the color scheme chosen. But if we look at, say, this cover right here, Cassandra Cain has punched this evildoer, scary tough guy with tattoos, and it's very realistic as there's, blood and things like that, but he's also seeing stars and birds, which is, of course, a typical cartoon representation of being knocked out. I thought that was very clever. I really love James Jean's style. Now this section is about other Vertigo comics and things like that. I don't really know a lot about that kind of thing. That's not really something I've ever dived into that much. So I don't want to cover it because it's not really my area of expertise, and I just don't want to misinform you or speak about it improperly. Plus I'd have to be reading it the whole time, and the other sections I already know a lot about them. But if you are a Vertigo fan, it might be interesting. Oh, here's this is a James Jean, yes. Some more James Jean covers. These are for Fables, like I said. I love his art. Bite Club. This is Birds of Prey. Is that a Greg Land cover? I'm not sure. Yes, it is. It is a Greg Land cover, yep. And, yeah, distinct style. Although I have to say Greg Land is not my favorite. But he has a lot of really great stuff. I can see why a lot of people love his work. And then we have some Zatanna up here. Oh, I love this cover with all the rabbits. This is a great example of using white, using space, because obviously if it was just Zatanna sitting with all this white space, it wouldn't be that visually interesting, but because she's surrounded by rabbits and the rabbits don't have any shading on them, they're just done with a standard line work, it almost feels claustrophobic to look at, because we really get the fact that she is surrounded by rabbits and they keep coming out of her hat and she doesn't know what to do. So that was just a really great choice in line work. This is Cliff Chang down here. And Cliff Chang is definitely one of my favorites as well. I have a lot of favorites, it would seem. And then we have, I think this is the only image of Big Barda in the whole book. It's kind of sad. Jack Kirby's Fourth World. I love Big Barda. She's a favorite character of mine. Green Arrow. And then we have, the book's almost over, a Greg Land cover. A Teen Titans reintroducing Raven. Some more Birds of Prey. Superman, Batman number 27 up here with Power Girl and Huntress. I really miss the old Birds of Prey. This kind of makes me a little sad because the new Birds of Prey is okay and everything. I just really miss the team up of Barbara Gordon and Huntress and everybody and Black Canary, and oh, I miss it. I miss it a lot. Aquaman down here, Green Lantern up there. And then we're at the end of the book. I know, it's so sad. Great image of Wonder Woman to say goodbye. And this pattern on the back cover is an Adam Hughes cover as well. Really just a great book. Like I said, I was really pleased to find it at such a great price because it's a great book, and this one I would definitely recommend as someone to someone for a gift or anything like that. I would say if you're looking for a treat for yourself because you deserve a treat every once in a while, right? This would be a really nice collector's item. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me for another book ASMR video. As always, let me know what you guys would like to see, and I'll do my best to make that for you because I love you guys so much. And as always, thank you for watching, and thank you for all of your feedback. It means so much to me. Anyways, I wish you a